Okay, we're ready to go. So let's get rolling here. Welcome again, everybody, to webinar number 6 in our series. I can't believe we're at 6. It just seems like we started yesterday. Tonight, we're going to be talking all about email and email marketing. So it's an area we get a lot of questions on. There's a lot of confusions about what's okay, what's not okay with email. So we're going to get into that, and then also how to best use it. I think everybody on here that I recognize the name of just about everybody on here, so you all know who I am, so I'll skip this part, and we'll get into the agenda for tonight. So what we're going to start with is a quick recap and a couple of questions from last week's webinar on search. Actually, there's one question in particular that I'm going to touch on here because I've gotten it several times during the week. Then we're going to jump right into email marketing basics and the kind of the fundamentals there. I'm going to quickly touch on some of the spam laws and regulations. Again, it's a question that comes up to me a lot, and people are wondering, hey, is this okay or not okay, or what is okay or whatever. So we'll just touch on those really quickly. We'll talk about the email marketing tools that are out there and different software and which ones are used for what purpose. And then we'll get into how you actually maximize your email results, how to put together the best emails for the best situations and to get the highest results, and we'll talk about what that is. And then, as always, we'll finish off with questions and answers. And of course, if you have questions as we go along, feel free to jump in and we'll do everything I can to get those answered as we go along. So that's our agenda for tonight. As we always do every week, just to recap our purpose of marketing, just because if you hear it 8 or 10 times, it'll just be ingrained. So I'm keep doing this, is that the sole purpose of marketing is to get more people to buy more of your product or service more often and for more money. So we've talked about this for several weeks now, and this is really the sole purpose of what marketing is all about. And digital marketing, we've talked about, is marketing that is carried out online using technology, the internet, mobile devices, and most importantly, metrics. And what we're going to talk about tonight with email certainly fits right in the crosshairs of that. It's very much using, marketing online, using technology, using the internet. We're going to talk a lot about the role of mobile in all of this, and we're going to talk about the role of metrics in all of this. So email fits right into that as well. Now, actually, before I get into this, I did have one question that I wanted to answer that came up a lot during the week as it was related to search. And this was something we actually touched on, and I know we touched on it quickly 3 or 4 weeks ago, which was how you go about finding the keywords that you may want to rank for in search. So to answer that, I'm going to jump over to my browser. And what you should see here on the browser is the Google Keyword Planner. And the Google Keyword Planner is a tool that you can use. It's free to use. You have to set up an AdWords account, but you can see here you don't have to enter in credit cards or any billing information. You can just go right in and start using it. And it's a tool you can use to find out, basically the search volume of various keywords, as well as what you could expect to pay if you were going to use Google pay-per-click advertising to pay for that keyword or to pay for ads related to that keyword. So I just put in a simple one here, veterinarian. And if I say get ideas, what it does is it comes back with the number of search terms for the keyword that I put in here, but then it starts to put in other ideas that it may think that you would be interested in related to that keyword that's there. And you can put in multiple keywords here, right? So if I wanted to put in veterinarian and flea remedy, actually put a comma here. So I want to look for keywords related to both of those. You'll see that it'll come back, and I need to put a comma there. Try this again. and not a lot of people searching for veterinarian space flea remedy. So you can see here that it comes back, and we'll come back with all the list of terms that you put in there, and then it will also give you again the ideas. And you can sort by monthly search, you can sort by price, and there's also a whole bunch of other things you can do over here to filter out those keywords. So you can look at, location as well, and all of these different types of things to filter out the volume of those keywords. What this shows, though, is the average monthly searches, and this is in the average monthly searches in the US. So you see here I have the whole US, this is not the world. And then these two columns here are related to if you were going to bid on that keyword in Google pay-per-click search. So this says that this has medium competition, meaning that there's not that, medium, but there's a fair number of people competing for that term. And the average price that you're going to pay per click, or the suggested bid to get a click, is $2.76. If on Flea Remedy, it's much less than that, but the competition's higher. So it's actually saying that there are more people trying to get access to this Flea Remedy keyword, and you can see there's much fewer searches every month. So if there's more people, or even the same number of people, the competition is going to be higher in that area there. So this is just a tool to use. Like I said, it's free. You can, if you just type or Google keyword planner, it'll show you how to get there. It's a tool to get familiar with and to use as you're kind of planning out the keywords that you would want to rank for and the things that you would want to do on that. So hopefully that answers some of the questions that came up from last week about how you look for keywords. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint and let's jump into our main topic for the night, which was email marketing. And I wanted to start off with some basics, kind of set some foundation, because there's different types of email marketing and there's different types of lists. And so it's just good to get the foundation in place, and then we can kind of build on that and look at how we use kind of strategies to maximize our email marketing. But first of all, there's basically two types of email marketing or email you can do. The first one is called broadcast email marketing, and that's blasting or sending an email message to a general list. And the goal is attracting attention, getting the email open and read, and then getting the reader of the email generally to take some action. So to click to a website or a landing page or watch a video or whatever. So you probably get, broadcast emails from companies all the time, and they're all doing the same thing, right? They're looking to get your attention, get you to open it, and get you to do something by clicking on something in that email. Almost every broadcast email has a call to action, which is for you to click and go somewhere. The second type of email is what is called a follow-up email or follow-up email marketing. And this is a specific, highly targeted email or series of emails that is sent as a follow-up, hence the word follow-up email marketing, to a previous action taken by somebody who received maybe an earlier email, well, taken by the receiver of the email. So for example, if somebody signed up for a webinar, and in fact, this happens, right? If you sign up for a webinar and you don't attend the webinar, you may get a follow-up email saying, hey, sorry you couldn't attend. Here is a link to a replay. Or if you opted in for a video and you didn't watch the video, you may get an email following up, inviting you back in. And as we've talked about, when we've talked about funnels, and I'll be showing this here again in a second, right? The follow-up zone is very, very important in a funnel because people are going to drop out of your funnel. They're going to drop out of the nurture process. They're going to drop out of the conversion process. And this is where you would use a follow-up email to bring them back in. It's a different type of email than if you were just using a broadcast email to bring somebody into the funnel right from the beginning. So let's take a look at a couple examples of these emails. And let's see. So I've got a couple of them here. So the email that you're seeing here on my screen is an example of an email that would be a broadcast email. So some of you may have heard of Jeff Walker. He's an online marketer, pretty popular online marketer. And you'll see here I got this email today that what he's trying to do is a broadcast email, and he's trying to get you to watch a video about how to find your big idea for a digital business. So you'll see there's 2 big clicks here, and that's the goal of this email, was to get people to click through and go watch this video, right? Well, this email probably went out to, well, he has a big list and a big number of people, so thousands of people that this went out to, and it was a broadcast email with the goal, again, of getting somebody to take that action and click on that list. This is the first time I've seen this email, at least related to this, from him, so it wasn't a follow-up email. He didn't send this to me based upon something else I did. I just got this because I'm on his list, and so therefore I received this email. Now I have a second type of email here that I also got from another online marketer named Todd Brown, and this was a follow-up email that I got because I signed up for a video series that he did. So I opted in to see a video series that he did, and I've not watched video number 4 yet. So he's sending me a reminder. I fell out of his zone, right out of his nurture zone. So he's sending me an email here saying, hey, did you watch video number 4 yet? If not, go here, and so on. And also, here's any of the previous videos. If I missed them, they're all right here. So this was an example of a follow-up email that I got because I opted in to something that he's doing. And again, the broadcast email and the follow-up email has a different purpose, as we talked about. Is the broadcast is to get somebody into your funnel. The follow-up email is to keep them or bring them back into your funnel, or keep them there if they fell out. So the wording, the structure, all of that is going to be different between the broadcast email and the follow-up email. Let's go back here. So that was just a couple of examples of those 2 types of emails. Now, there's also different types of lists that you could mail, either one, well, you could mail to, let's just say that. So first of all, there's a cold list, which is a list of email addresses that did not opt in or sign up to be on your email list or receive emails from you. Now, where could you get a cold list? Well, a lot of people buy lists or purchase lists from a third party. Maybe it's an association, maybe it's a magazine, maybe it's whatever. There's email addresses that you can purchase, but those people never opted in or signed up to be on your specific mailing list or received emails from you. So they don't know who you are or anything about you probably, and so that would be classified as a cold list. An opt-in list is a list of email addresses that are obtained from someone who either opted in on your website or your landing page, or alternatively purchased something from you and inherently agreed to your privacy policy. So when you have somebody who you're obtaining their email from, you're actually legally supposed to have a privacy policy that, excuse me, that is on your website that talks about what you're going to do with those email addresses. So are you going to sell them? Are you not going to sell them? How are you going to use them? All of those things. So if somebody opted into your list, they've agreed to your privacy policy, and they've opted in because they said they wanted to be part of your list. So it's a different type of list. It's a warmer list generally than a cold list because these people actually took the time to go into your opt-in list. And then a partner list could be a list of opt-in emails from a business partner or somebody that that allows you to email to that list. And the only difference between that and say buying a list from somebody is that when you have a partner list, a lot of times they will email on your behalf and they'll introduce you as a partner. So it's like having a warm introduction versus a cold introduction, right? You're having a friend introducing you and saying, hey, I'm emailing on the behalf of so-and-so here. I think they've got a really great, interesting thing you should check out here. Well, that's going to be a better situation than if you just took the list and started emailing it cold to those different people. So these are 3 different types of lists. All of them are very valid, but they have different characteristics and they have different purposes. Now, how does this all relate to your funnel? Going back to our famous funnel picture that we've been looking at with our nurture zone and our conversion zone. Well, as I mentioned, we can use email as a traffic source to bring people into our funnel. And I could do, and these would be examples of broadcast emails, right? So I would do broadcast emails either to a cold list, to a warm list, or to a partner list. And I would use that to bring people into my nurture zone and into my funnel. So it's just a traffic source at this point. It's just as valid as a traffic source of Facebook, Google, or some of the other ones that we've talked about over the last few weeks. It's the same general idea. So again, that would be a broadcast email. The second place where it fits into your funnel is again here in the follow-up zone. So as we remember, when somebody comes into your funnel, they may drop out and or not complete the funnel. And as a result from that, you want to bring them back in. Well, if you have their email, you can use that to bring them back in. That's exactly the example I just showed a second ago with the email from that 4 video series, right? I went in to their funnel on the 4 video series. I watched 3 of the videos. I didn't watch the 4th one, so I dropped out of the nurture zone, and I got an email for me to come back in. And obviously his goal is for me to watch that 4th video and move into the conversion zone and ultimately become a customer. But if he didn't follow up, chances are I'd forget about it. I wouldn't do it. You know, it's like you're not going to remember or whatever. So I never would have even had a chance to get back in there. But now it kind of acts as a reminder to bring me back in and put me at that point. Now, obviously, you're never going to do a follow-up email to a cold list because a follow-up email only goes to somebody who's already opted in for something that for a funnel or for something that you're doing. So your follow-up emails are always going to go to your opt-in list because you had to get there. You know, in other words, they had to move into your opt-in list to even get into your funnel to begin with. And so therefore, you're following up with somebody who's already in the opt-in list. But as we said before, your cold traffic or your opt-in list or a partner list could be used as a broadcast email to actually get people into your funnel zone. And, you know, this is the simplicity of email. It's really used in these 2 places, and it's used for these 2 purposes. And that's really, you know, what you want to be thinking with as it relates to that. Let me grab a drink and see if there's any questions so far. I'll answer that. There are a couple of questions which I will answer here in just a minute about buying lists. So let's get into kind of the next question, which comes up a lot and is kind of the questions that are starting to come up here about buying lists and all that stuff. So what are the email marketing laws? And these are the laws in the US. They're different in different parts of the world. You know, Canada has stricter spam laws than the US. I think France has very strict spam laws. So obviously, if you're going to be mailing internationally, you have to know what the laws are for those areas. But I'm going to just focus here on the US email marketing spam laws. So the first one is that what you cannot do is harvest email messages or email addresses, that's what it should say, not messages, email addresses from other websites and create your own cold list. So what that means is you can't go over to, let's say, an association site where they've listed emails on that site, copy those emails and put them into your own list. I had a client recently that was selling to universities. And so they were going to university websites and grabbing emails of professors and other people off that website and building a list. Well, that's not legal. That's considering harvesting emails. And, you know, spam laws kind of consider that you're, you know, stealing them from somebody else. Now, that's what you cannot do. Can you purchase a list from somebody? Yes, you can absolutely purchase a list. It is totally legal to purchase a list. The list that you're purchasing should not have harvested emails on them, and you should ask, if you were purchasing a list from somebody, for them to verify or confirm that they're not going to have harvested emails on there. So you're kind of protecting yourself. And one of the reasons people don't hesitate to purchase lists is because they're concerned that the lists have come from harvesting. And some lists are. There are definitely people that are not very scrupulous that are going out and harvesting emails and creating lists from that. You know, obviously, I don't know. It's a fine line. Are you buying a list from somebody else? Is it your responsibility or whatever? I just think it's a good idea to know if you're buying a list or getting the person you're buying the list from to verify or validate or confirm that their email addresses are coming from legitimate sources. The second law is that when you send an email to somebody that's a promotional email and it's to your list, you have to provide the ability for the person to unsubscribe or opt out of the email list that you're sending from. And I'll show you an example of this here in just a second. Well, why don't I do that right now, actually? So if we go back to the emails that I was just looking at, where did they go? Oh, I guess I shut them down. Shoot. I don't know where those went. So, okay, well, we're not going to see those again. But if you would have gone to the bottom of those emails that I just had up and running, there would have been a little unsubscribe button at the bottom. And you've probably seen this, and you can certainly take a look at any email that you receive. And it will say, don't want us to receive any more emails, unsubscribed or opt out, and it gives you the opportunity to do that. The second thing that's also in those emails and that you're supposed to do is that you are also supposed to provide your contact info at the bottom of each of those emails, including a physical address for your company. So again, if you look at the bottom of an email that you receive from somebody, it'll have the unsubscribe button and it will have the contact info, usually an address even of the actual location of where the email is coming from. If you see an email that comes from somebody and it doesn't have those, and it's actually illegal, they're violating the spam laws. Your subject lines and content must not be misleading or fraudulent. Obviously, that's pretty broad. It's hard to say what would be considered misleading or fraudulent, but I think there's obviously some obvious examples for that and things that would not align with that. So those are really the email marketing as it relates to the legal part of the thing, the legal aspect of it. I know some people do not believe in sending to cold lists, and I totally get it. Because it is spam, right? You actually are, when you're sending to a cold list, it is considered spam because those people never asked to receive your email. And I think that's a personal call that you would have to make, that each company or marketer would have to make. Some people feel okay with that. So I'm not going to tell you whether it's good or bad or the right or wrong thing to do. I think you have to make that decision for yourself, but just realize that you're sending to a cold list and understand the responsibility of sending to a cold list. Some people will say, I will only send to an opt-in or a warm list, and I'm going to get people to come into my funnel from other traffic sources. That's totally fine too. Again, there's not a right or wrong answer. It's really up to you and what you feel is right or wrong, but it's not against the law to actually do that. So hopefully that clears up some of the questions and things that related to what's legal and what isn't as it relates to email. Now, what are the email marketing tools that I can use to actually send these types of emails? You can't use a easy for me to say. You can't use your Outlook or your Apple Mail or whatever to send to a list, because Apple Mail and your Outlook and your personal email systems are not designed to have the unsubscribe button that we just talked about that are required, and they're not designed to automatically put your contact information at the bottom and so on. So you need to use an email marketing tool for emailing and doing different types of emails. So let's start with broadcast emails. And there are systems that are good for broadcast emails, and then there's systems that are better for follow-up emails. And I'm going to show you some examples of those here in just a minute. Now, in the broadcast email systems, you've probably heard of MailChimp, Constant Contact, Aweber. There's quite a few. There's a long list of them that are out there that are used for that. These companies, though, and Gina just asked this question, is these companies will not allow you to send to cold lists. They want you to verify that the list that you're sending to in their email system is an opt-in list. And some of them will make you answer quite a few questions and sign away your third board and so on to prove that you're using an opt-in list. Now, the reason they're doing that actually is not because of their moral compass necessarily, or that they don't believe it's right or wrong to send to a cold list. What they're trying to avoid is when you send to a cold list, you run the risk of getting lots of opt-outs, lots of bounces. In other words, the emails aren't good and they bounce back, or spam complaints. So when somebody unsubscribes to an email, they can also mark that as saying this email was spam. And if an email company like MailChimp and Constant Contact and so on start getting a lot of sending emails that are bouncing or getting spam complaints or lots of opt-outs or whatever, it ruins their or impacts their deliverability and their online deliverability reputation. So the reason that they're so strict about this is they want to protect their deliverability rates. They want to protect their reputation with deliverability. It's very selfish, honestly, but I don't blame them. And they're, really trying to make sure that they're only getting the most highest quality email list in the thing that's there. Now, you can definitely in some of these sort of, answer that it's an opt-in email list and then load a cold list. But what's going to happen is you start sending out of there and you start getting higher bounce rates, or you start getting a lot of spam complaints, they'll immediately shut you down. So I had a client who tried to put a cold list into MailChimp, and literally in the first 200 emails they mailed out, MailChimp stopped it and basically canceled their account. MailChimp in particular has some really, really sophisticated tools that they put into place to actually look at and identify cold email lists. So all of these different companies are getting more and more sophisticated to protect against cold email lists. Now, there are still companies out there that are more liberal and that will send to cold lists. I won't go so far to say that they welcome them, but at least they allow it and they'll work with you on it. There's a couple of them I've used called StreamSend and eMercury. StreamSend has actually gotten more conservative recently. They used to be super liberal. They'd let you do anything. Now they've kind of tightened up a bit. eMercury is another company, eMercury.net, that they have really good service and they're pretty liberal and they'll work with you. And they're not going to just say forget it if you don't have a opt-in list or it's a cold list. So there's other companies that are out there. Unfortunately or fortunately, whatever your point of view is, they're becoming fewer and far between. Because of the deliverability issues that I've talked about. It's becoming tougher and tougher, honestly, to send to cold lists, but it still can be done and can be done with some of these companies. Now, follow-up email systems are systems that can automate, ideally, the automation of the follow-up emails that occur after somebody pops in. And MailChimp and Constant Contact and Aweber all have these capabilities. They're called autoresponders or follow-up sequence. And they're fine. You usually have to pay more to get access to them. I know like MailChimp has a free account and you can use that to do broadcast emails, but if you want to do follow-up email sequences, you have to pay. So each within of these accounts sort of have different plans and different things that you can do for doing that, but they do that. Then there's more sophisticated follow-up email systems, and a couple of them I'm familiar with is Infusionsoft and GetResponse. Infusionsoft I use very commonly. They have probably the most powerful follow-up email system, and I'm going to show you one of the couple of things that they do here in just a minute, where you can really automate and even put in some logic into the follow-up sequences. So for example, if you send a follow-up email and the person doesn't do something in 2 days, it does something. But if they do something, it does something else. Or you can put all kinds of timings or conditional sort of decision points in there that can be pretty sophisticated. And when you're building a funnel, this can be quite useful and quite valuable, is having a good follow-up email system. If you're going to just do some very simple follow-ups, then you can likely use the same tools that you're doing for your broadcast email. But Infusionsoft and GetResponse are going to be, kind of the next layer, the advanced power user layer for that. And of course, they're going to cost more money. Sorry, just going to grab another sip of water. And then let's actually take some look at some examples of those. So let's go back to the browser. And I'm going to go over here to MailChimp. So probably a lot of you are familiar with MailChimp. I think it's a really, really nice basic broadcast email system. I think they do some really good things with making it easy to use. They make it some really good reporting. There's some really nice tools that you can use in there. And you can start for free. I think you can have up to 2,000 subscribers into a MailChimp account before you even have to start paying. The way that when you do broadcast emails, they're called campaigns. So what you're seeing here is some different broadcast emails that were sent out. And this tells a number of people that received that email, and then it will show the open rate and how many people actually clicked on it. And then they have a pretty good reporting tools here for actually looking at the metrics of what's here. We're going to talk about metrics in a minute and how you use those. But you can't get these types of metrics, for example, out of Outlook, right? If you send messages out of Outlook, you can't go in and look and see how many opened them, how many clicked. You'll see here that this one had 13 people that bounced, so that meant that these were bad email addresses and 4 unsubscribed. So all of this data is showing up here in this report. And they have, tools for building email templates and putting in your list and all those different types of things, all within MailChimp. And whether you're using Constant Contact or MailChimp or Aweber or the different broadcast tools that we've talked about, they're all going to work in a similar way. The reporting may be different. The way that you get at data may be different. It may not be as easy to use. Like I said, I like MailChimp as a good starting point, but you will definitely not be able to send a cold list out of MailChimp. They will stop you and literally shut your account down very, very quickly because, like I said, they have very sophisticated tools for doing that, and I think Constant Contact does as well. Now, on the follow-up one, what I'm actually in now is Infusionsoft, and Infusionsoft has a tool in it called the Email Campaign Builder. And what it allows you to do is actually put together your whole email follow-up sequence kind of graphically. So you can go in and you can say, well, if somebody opted in, if they came in one direction, you can go one route. If they came in another direction, you can go there. You can send them through different email campaigns. You can tag them and put information on it based upon what they've done. And the reason this can be really useful is because it allows you to put together very intelligent and very smart follow-up campaigns. So, going back to that email that I was showing earlier about video the 4 videos. Well, that email campaign, that funnel, was you opted in and you got a new video every day for 4 days. So let's say I watched video 1, then they would have sent me the follow-up email to say, okay, great, thank you for watching video 1. Now here's your video 2, and so on. But if I didn't watch video 1, their follow-up sequence was intelligent enough to go, well, I shouldn't send him video 2 because he hasn't finished video 1. So I'm going to send him a reminder to watch video 1. And all of that can be automated and programmed in these follow-up sequence and in these automations. And you can do a bit of that in, say, a Constant Contact or in a MailChimp, but you can get very sophisticated and very automated in something like Infusionsoft. And for example, if I click on one of these, it goes down and then it goes through and says, okay, how do you want these emails to run? Well, I want to wait 24 hours and send this email. Then I want to wait another 24 hours. I want to send that email. As you can see here, all of these are kind of graphically laid out so you can see the whole sequence of what it's doing and how it's put together. So again, that's Infusionsoft. GetResponse is similar. Infusionsoft has a reputation of being pretty complicated, but it's also very powerful. So, like every tool, they all have their pros and cons. Let's see, is there anything else here about these 2 tools that I want to talk about before we leave here? Just also the reporting is very good in Infusionsoft. You can see who actually got to each step along your way here. They have performance reports, so I can so I haven't published this campaign, but if it was published, I would be able to see how many people have got to each of these steps, so you can actually watch the process of where people get on each of these funnels that are here. Okay, so that's in Infusionsoft. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of the different tools that are out there and what you can put into play. Now, how do you maximize email results, right? So we've gone through the tools and we've gone through the different types of lists, but of course when we're emailing, whether it's a broadcast or whether it's a follow-up email, we want to get results. And so our goal always in an email marketing anyway, is to get somebody to click through, right? To click on that link and go into our funnel. Or our objective is, if it's a follow-up email, to click back and come back to the landing page or the video or the place that I want them to do. That's the purpose of email. It's to get somebody to take an action, to get them to do something. That's it. That is the goal of email marketing, is to click through or to click back. Now, to make that goal occur, though, there's a few things that have to happen. One, the person has to actually receive the email. And you could maybe be saying, well, yeah, duh. But actually, that's something to look at, because with all the spam filters that are out there, all the different email, Gmail and all these things, all of these guys have put in spam traps and spam filters. So there's a lot of places that your email can get lost along the way and never make it into the person's inbox. So it's important, obviously, that they get the email in their inbox. The second thing is they have to open the email. Now, deleting the email does not count as opening the email, right? So if you get an email or an email on your phone and you swipe it and delete it, that's not opening it. And you're not going to get a click-through if somebody deletes your email. So you need to open the email. Then you need the person to read the email, at least to some degree, if for no other reason, just to scan through it and see what it's about, so they can get to the point to click on the link. Now, this is true for both a broadcast email and a follow-up email. These 4 steps are the same. They have to receive it, they have to open it, they have to read it to some degree, and they have to click on the link. That is what has to happen to get a result. So what I wanted to do here is kind of go into each of these areas and talk about some of the things you can do to improve the results and the statistics of each of these different areas. Because if you can raise the statistic in any one of these areas, in other words, more people are receiving your email, more are opening the email, more are reading it, more are clicking through, all of that's going to lead to better performance of your funnel, right? Obviously, the worse statistics you're getting here, then your performance of your funnel is going to get worse and worse. So let's take a look at each of these. So the first one we'll take a look at is receiving the email. So what are some things you can do to ensure that you have the highest level of deliverability as possible? Well, the first is to send through a reputable email service that has good deliverability rates. The people that send the cold email list, generally their deliverability rates are not as good as, say, MailChimp or Constant Contact or so on. And that's what I was saying earlier, because those companies are doing everything they can to protect their deliverability rate. But sometimes you have no choice. So you may have to send through one of those other companies, and your deliverability rate will probably go down, and it will suffer. The other thing is that if you're going to send to a cold list, do not send a cold list to a cold list through the same, what's called IP address, or the same email system as your opt-in list. Because your cold list is always going to perform worse. It's going to have more opt-outs, it's going to have more bounces, and what you don't want to do is pollute your opt-in list with some of the, I guess you could call it toxicity that could occur from the cold list. So if you're mailing to a cold list and you're mailing to an opt-in list, create 2 separate email accounts. Create a StreamSend or an eMercury account for your cold list, and then use MailChimp or Constant Contact or Infusionsoft or whatever for your opt-in list, but don't mix them together, because you're going to actually, your opt-in list deliverability will suffer. The third is don't create spammy emails, and don't put the word Viagra in your subject line, or don't do things that are obviously going to find that the email spam filters are going to pick out as being spammy and cause you to not have your email delivered. A lot of the email tools now have things where they'll scan your email and give you a report that says, hey, you've got some things in here that could make your email look spammy or not deliverable. So take advantage of those. I think it's just being intelligent and, putting things in like, make money fast. There's certain terms that the email spam filters are looking for that will automatically trigger your email or label your email as being spammy. So, don't do things like that. Also, lots of images in emails now can be considered marked as spammy. Anyway, there's just a number of things that, the email filters will trigger as spammy. The other thing is that I always recommend to remove or take out any bad email addresses, bounces, opt-outs, etc. from your list each month. You don't want to keep, and the list should handle that. The system should handle it so that you shouldn't be re-emailing to those people. But I like to clean them out. I don't even want to take a chance of them going out. So each month I'll go and make sure everything is removed from the list. And then people who never look like they're opening the email or consuming my content or never opting in, I'll look at those every 90 days or so and remove those out of my opt-in list or even a cold list as well, and almost put them in an inactive list. Because the more people the higher percentage of people that are active with my email and opening them, that's going to help my deliverability. So I want to remove any of the things that are going to potentially hurt my deliverability over time. So those are things that you can do to, just ensure that the email actually shows up in the inbox at all to begin with and to make that happen. Yeah, Gina, so the question is, does Constant Contact remove bad emails, opt-outs and stuff from the list automatically? They don't remove them in a sense that they don't delete them, but they should not send to them. So it should automatically, in the Constant Contact or MailChimp or whatever, they'll mark them or tag them as bad emails and opt-outs. And then when you mail to that list again, it should not include those. However, I've found that isn't always the case and things can sneak in. So I just like to clean them out every month. And you can go in and say, show me all my opt-outs and delete them and actually physically delete them from there and all the bad email addresses and so on. I just prefer to get them out. So I know I'm working with at least as many good lists as possible. So, okay, so that's about getting the email in the inbox. Now, the next step is, okay, it makes it into the inbox. So how do I make sure somebody opens the email? Well, one of the most important things nowadays is be aware of the time of day that you send the email. And here's why. Okay, so and I bet you a lot of you are guilty of doing this. I am guilty of doing this. So what happens in the morning? You wake up, you pick up your mobile phone, and you look at your email. And you scan at all the emails that have come in since you went to bed. And you quickly decide by the subject line or who it's from or whatever as to whether or not that's an email you want to keep or not. And you'll go through and you'll slide your finger and you'll delete off a whole bunch of emails that you don't want to have to look at later. Then what you'll do is the emails that you do like, you may look at them right there, or you may do nothing and say, I'll read and check out these emails when I get back to my computer, and I can sit down and look at them and decide what I'm going to do. This is the way most people deal with email. So if you send an email at 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, and it shows up in somebody's inbox when they wake up on their phone, you run the risk of going through that morning purge and getting deleted without anybody ever even opening your email. Now you could say, but wait a minute, I have a great subject line and they're going to be interested in it and whatever. And that's fine, and that may work. If you have a good, compelling, interesting subject line, then that may work really well. But you're also, again, running the risk of going through that morning purge. So I personally like to send emails to my list at about 9 or 10 in the morning Pacific time. That way I know that they're coming in to people during the middle of the day. They don't get removed by the morning purge, and they're not getting caught up at the end of the day where people are not looking at them. So I'm generally will see better results emailing after, once the day starts. Now, people will argue and say, well, wait a minute, I've heard you're supposed to mail at night so people see it the first thing in the morning when they get there. And that was true before smartphones, and it became so easy for people to go through and purge out the emails that they don't want to read. And like I said, probably a lot of you are guilty of it. I know I am. So be aware of the time of day that you send the email. Secondly is, of course, make your subject line interesting. I'll talk more about that later. And you want your subject line to be mobile friendly. And what I mean by that here is what you're seeing here. So this is a screenshot from my cell phone, and this is my email list from one of my inboxes. You'll see here that and this is an iPhone, and I'm probably pretty sure it's similar on Android, although I don't know exactly. You've got about 60 characters that show up in the subject line here. Well, this guy, the email I showed you earlier, he's well within there, so I can see the whole subject line. Here I can't see the whole subject line. The one down here I can't see the whole subject line. Is that going to help me make a good decision as to whether or not this is a keeper or not? You'll see here, these came in the middle of the night, right? So these came in, and this one I would look at and go, I don't even know what this is about, and it would likely not get the purge, right, at that point. So you want to be thinking about your subject lines, that they're not too long, and that they show up in the inbox of a mobile phone or of a mobile device. The other thing is that you also saw here is what's called a mobile-friendly intro sentence. So this is actually used to your advantage because this is showing generally the first 2 lines, or about the first 120 characters, really, of the email. Well, if this is done right, you can actually use this as a way to create interest. And I think this one is well done, right? He says in the subject, this is so often. I got to admit, sometimes I just sit back and marvel at how awesome life is. Look at the sentence complete there. This was done by design. He put this email together in this exact way, so it showed up that exact way, and that it would be, useful. Now, some of these other ones are not so intelligently put together. You can see here that the sentences start, but you don't get to finish, so you don't really know. This one was a notification email, but you'll see emails that come through that really don't even have anything here. And this is something you can get in trouble with images. If you put images at the top of your email, it depends, but some will not show this first sentence properly. So you really want to make sure that when you're constructing your emails that it's going to show up properly here, and make this, make this interesting, and make this first line to create curiosity for them to want to read it, right? It's the only chance you're going to get when they're scanning through there. So make sure these 2 things count in what you're actually doing. It'll make a huge difference in the open rate of your email and how you put these things together here. So again, time of day, subject line, mobile-friendly subject line, 60 characters or less, and then the mobile-friendly intro sentence is about 120 characters, somewhere in that neighborhood. And most, a lot of email systems will kind of let you see how it will look and render on mobile. But what I recommend is before you send it, do a test to yourself and look at it on the mobile phone. Look at your test email on the mobile phone and make sure it kind of fits these different things here. It'll definitely work to your benefit. So good. So hopefully that makes sense there. Now, okay, so we've done the first 2 steps, right, where we've gotten them to read it. We've got them to get it, show up in their inbox, and we've gotten them to open it. And yeah, as I said before, Dirk, is the question that just came through, is if somebody just deletes the email, so they see it on the phone and they just scan it and delete it, that's not counted as an open. Another thing too, is we'll get into this in a minute, is that if not, the open rate data is not super accurate. There's a lot of things that have to kind of go just right for the email service provider to know if the email is open. So generally your open rate's going to be a lot higher than what you're actually seeing. But you can look at it from a relative point of view, from email to email, right? You can look at, well, one email got an open rate of 20%, another one got an open rate of 30%. So I can assume that this one was better received. But don't assume the numbers are an absolute. Just use those from a relative perspective to know if an email is performing better or the other. So, okay, so reading the email, obviously we want to create curiosity from the subject line and intro. But then when you get into the email, you want to tell a story, if at all possible. Make the email interesting where people want to read through it. But also at the same time, make sure that it's easy to scan through and read. And people, and again, you probably do this yourself, right? You'll scan through the email. You're not going to read every single word. And so you're going to scan through it, and you're going to use that scan to determine whether or not this is worthwhile or not. So super dense paragraphs, especially on mobile phones, no one's going to read those. They're probably not going to read them even on the desktop. So I like to keep things in kind of short, couple line paragraphs, maybe 3-line paragraphs, kind of tell your story as you go along and make it easy to read and scan as they go through. You don't have to explain a whole bunch of stuff in the email. Your whole goal of the email is just to get them to click and take action. So if you have a landing page, let's say that you're, trying to get people to opt in for a webinar. You don't need to explain the whole webinar in the email. What you need to do is make it so that people are intrigued enough and interested enough to click on the link to go to your landing page, and then they can learn about the webinar and so on. So again, remember the goal of the email is to get the click. And whatever you should do to get the click is what matters. It's not to indoctrinate or educate the person in a lot of detail, which you can do on a landing page or somewhere else. I also like to use bolding and highlighting to spotlight key points. So if there's something I want somebody's eye to go to in that scan, I'll either bold it or even put like a yellow highlight over it. And I like to keep images to a minimum and use only if they add clear value. It may make the email look cool and sexy, but it actually doesn't help as it relates necessarily to your readability. And it's actually going to help or hurt potentially in your spamminess and so on. And I know a lot of the email tools, they have all these templates and things like that to create really fancy looking emails with lots of graphics. You're actually better off to keep it simple without images or with minimal images, unless the image is actually going to make a point. Maybe it's a chart or a graph or something that you really want to use to hammer home a point, but don't put an image just because you think it cosmetically looks better. It's actually going to reduce your results in most cases. So, and again, it can be, done as spam and so on by using those images. And then last but not least is you obviously want people to click through. So you have to create enough intrigue and interest in the email copy that the person actually wants to click through. The other thing, which is obvious, but a lot of people make this mistake, is make the click-through link or button obvious and easy to find. Remember the emails I showed you earlier that had a couple of places it was big and blue? It was very clear where you should click on. It should just be really easy, because some people will just say, oh, okay, this looks interesting after reading one sentence, and just look to see where they need to click. But you want to make it easy, right? You don't want to put up barriers or roadblocks to getting to the click. And make sure that there's only one call to action link in your email. Some people will put in like all these different links to different places. That's going to disperse the person. Remember, what you're trying to do is use this to drive them into your funnel or to bring them back to your funnel. So keep it focused. Just do one call to action link and make it easy to get there. And then this last one, which is not really related to the clicking through, but it is in a way, because once they do click, make sure that the person is going to a mobile-friendly web or landing page. How many times have you clicked on an email because you were intrigued, and the web page or the landing page that you went to was not mobile-friendly? It was hard to read. You couldn't see it. And so you just say screw it and you leave. Well, then you've just wasted the click and you've wasted all of that effort. So make sure that when they do click through, they're taken to a place where it's a mobile-friendly web landing page that's going to continue that experience and not turn them off because it's hard to read and go through. And if you do the 4 things, or the things here that we've talked about as it relates to receiving, opening, reading, and clicking through, you're going to see your email marketing results go up tremendously. And you're going to see your statistics in each of those areas. Your open rate will go up, your click-through rate will go up, everything will go up and you're going to get better results all the way through. Just apply the things that we're talking about here we went through today. It doesn't need to get any more fancy than that. It's just knowing that what are the things that work and why you should actually do it. So to recap, again, right, our email and our funnel here, we're using email either as a traffic source to get people into our funnel or as a follow-up tool to get them back into the funnel at this point. That is all we're really trying to do at this point. And I wanted to show another example on this. So this was a funnel that I showed, I demoed, I think, in the first or second week of the webinar. It's a funnel I put together for a veterinarian that's selling a product for dog allergies. And it's a pretty sophisticated funnel. It's got, you know, a nurture zone with a 15-20 minute video. It's got, and I'll go through it here real quickly, but I wanted to take a look at this again as it relates to the email aspect of things. So if somebody, you know, obviously email could be used as a tool for, you know, getting traffic to here. In fact, she did have an email list and she did email to her list to get people to show up to this landing page. But even if they came here from her email list, she asked them to opt in again. So this is an opt-in form, right? And so when somebody puts in their name and email, actually what happened at this point is when they click this, this email address was automatically sent to Infusionsoft and loaded into Infusionsoft. So she did her broadcast email out of MailChimp and brought people to this page, that landing page. But when they opted in, their email address went into Infusionsoft, and that immediately put them into a follow-up zone and a follow-up sequence. So they immediately got a follow-up email saying, thank you for signing up. It introduced who she was. It gave them some data about herself. All that happened automatically as soon as that email goes in there. Then we had the video here, which was about a 15-minute video. Now, if the person stopped right here and didn't go any further, then there was another email that was automatically sent saying, hey, your video is still waiting for you. Your video training is still waiting for you. You know, we'd love for you to come back and finish it. There's even things we could have done, we didn't do it, where based upon how far they got in the video, we could have sent an email based upon if they would have gotten 5 minutes into the video, 10 minutes in the video, and so on. We just had it if they did not leave this page and take the next step, we invited them back in the follow-up sequence there. Now, if they went to the next step, which is the next page of the funnel, right? This was the sales page for the funnel, right? And let's say, and this was the place where then they were presented the opportunity to buy. Well, if they didn't buy here, again, the follow-up email said, hey, you know, your $34.95 allergy rescue discount is still waiting for you. You know, please come back and get it. And actually, there was 3 follow-up emails. The first 2 just said that, and then the third one said, hey, act now and save an additional 10%, and gave them a coupon code to bring them back and save an additional 10%. So again, this is kind of getting into the conversion zone here, because the nurture zone was the training part here. And once they moved to here, we moved them from the nurture zone into the conversion zone. But if they didn't follow through, or they went to this order page and they didn't actually order, then again, there was follow-up emails bringing them back and offering them to come back to this point. So all of this was, you know, automated through Infusionsoft, even though the traffic that came into the funnel originally was done through MailChimp. So going back to the slide, right, all that happened here is they went into the nurture zone, they got automatic emails. If they dropped out of the emails or the nurture zone, they didn't finish the video, or they went to the sales page or the order page and they didn't complete, then the follow-up process occurred at that point and brought people back in, obviously with the goal of bringing them through here. And I actually am hoping, one of the reasons I wanted to do this session on emails is not just to talk about emails, but I'm hoping that you see the power of using email properly within your funnel, and why this follow-up zone is so important and how it can really change the in a huge way. I mean, I've seen funnels go from a 2% conversion rate to a 20-25% conversion rate by no other reason by introducing the follow-up zone and the follow-up emails. That's how important and how powerful it is. Because as I said in the beginning, people drop out for many, many reasons, and 99% of the time is not because they're not interested in what you're doing. They drop out because they get dispersed, something happens, they want to go check something out or whatever. So you want to constantly keep bringing people back into the nurture zone and the conversion zone, and your follow-up emails allow you to do that. But if you use what I just talked about, the best practices, how you put them together, you can make sure that they show up, they get to their inbox, they don't go into spam, they get read, all of those types of things, whether it's a broadcast or a follow-up email. Okay, well, I'm actually sort of on time tonight. Are there any other questions here? Let me see about email. I think we've answered that. Okay, good. So I think we've hit most of the questions related to that. Let's see here. Okay, so next week, what are we going to talk about? So next week, next week there is no webinar. There was supposed to be a webinar next week, but there's not going to be a webinar. So our next webinar is going to be 2 weeks out. And you say, well, why is there no webinar next week? Well, I'm actually going to a conference, a mastermind conference, with probably 30 of some of the top marketers in the US. And I'm really looking forward to it. And the whole conference is going to be talking about the nurture zone. How do you build a nurture zone that converts? And what do you need to do on the nurture zone? So I figured, rather than me doing a presentation or a webinar on the nurture zone next week, before I go to the conference, why don't we wait until after I come back from the conference and I have hopefully a lot of really cool new data to actually share with you and some things that I've learned on that. So next week is a week off, and the next webinar will be November 3rd, 2 weeks out. And what we're going to focus on is the nurture zone. And we're going to talk about how to create a nurture process that really converts. We're going to talk about different ways to set up your nurture zone. Do you use videos? Do you use webinars? Do you use, just text? What are the best ways to get people to move through the nurture zone and so on? So all of that will be covered on November 3rd next week. And last but not least, if you haven't signed up for your coaching call, I know I've got a few this week, which is great. And please do so. Go to coachingcallappointment.com. You can just go in there, sign up for a time that's convenient for you, and I'll get it on the calendar and we'll do our coaching call. They've been really great so far, and it's just very exciting to hear some of the things that people are doing and what you're doing and how you can help and apply these things. So if you, again, haven't done that, be sure to do that. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to scan through. I think we've covered most of the questions. If there's any last-minute questions, I'd be happy to answer them right now. Looks like we've got those. Otherwise, we're going to finish close to on time. So thanks again for everybody. Hopefully this was useful and helpful. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck with your email marketing. Have a great week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. All right, take care.